If it's comfortable, close your eyes and just take these words into silent contemplation. Grief, I've learned, is really just love. It's all the love you want to give but cannot. All that unspent love gathers up in the corners of your eyes, the lump in your throat, and the hollow part of your chest. Grief is just love with no place to go. Moment, right here, right now. I just turn my awareness to the presence of the divine, that one life that lives and moves and has its being in all things. That infinite expression, the divine. I know it lives in, through, and as me, as each one of us here today, and as this community as a whole. I know that we are divinely guided. We come here today for sacred community, this safe space to celebrate together, to mourn together, to lift each other up. I know that Reverend Jerry is just inspired and guided, and that his message today just reaches us at the level of our heart, each one of us. In this very room, those who are joining us virtually in this moment or in the future moment of the eternal moment of now. I know we are graced and blessed by the music of Cahill and Delene. I know the technology, everybody who steps up in service today, that we are just bound together in community, in love, and in joy. So I just allow this time to unfold, knowing that there is a healing going on right here. And I know that we are blessed. I declare this time good. I declare this time sacred and holy. I call it forth into being, allowing it to unfold in perfect, divine right order. I say it is done, and so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.
And now, back to Cahill and Delene.
Yay.
Welcome
Thank
back.
you.
Thank
Yes.
you. Well, I know the talk today is all-encompassing and all integrative with peace, love, and understanding and inclusiveness, and that's what this song is about. We wrote it. It's on our CD. It's on.
We co-wrote it.
We co-wrote it. You and I. Well, I started it.
Well, there's a
then
third
I went
person.
over to Carl's house, Carl Anthony, and he wrote the chorus. Or no, I wrote the chorus. He wrote the verse, and then you wrote another verse.
I wrote the words, the second verse to his
Yeah,
melody.
it's just amazing, you know, and it all came together.
Yes, it did.
And here it is, including our band. Okay, you ready, Mr. Sax Man?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Everybody matters. Everyone wants love. Sing along now. Everybody matters. Everyone wants love. Let me hear you say love, love, love. Everyone wants love. That's what you should sing.
I was walking down the road. It was getting kind of dark. I saw a man without a home. He looked so desperate and alone. I didn't know if I should smile or think about it for a while. I walked away without a glance.
Oh, why couldn't I take a chance? Everybody matters. Everyone wants love. Come on, sing it now. Everybody matters. Everyone wants love. Let me hear you say love, love, love. Everyone wants love. I was driving down the road, overwhelmed on overload. Help.
Rick Man.
I'm sorry. Oh man. I'll sing it for you later, okay? Oh, why couldn't I take a chance? Everybody matters. Everyone wants love. Oh, I know that part. Everybody matters. Come on. Everyone wants love. Let me hear you say love, love, love. Everyone wants love. Blow that sax, Daddy. People, let me tell you that you matter tonight. Woo! Everybody matters. Everyone wants love. We want it, we want it. Everybody matters. Everyone wants love. Let me hear you say love, love, love. Everyone wants love. 'Cause everybody matters. Everyone wants love. Everybody matters.
Oh, thank you. You're so forgiving.
Man, oh man, that second verse was really good too.
Hey, yeah, that's the one I wrote.
Why don't you tell him the lyrics later?
Okay. I was driving down the road, overwhelmed on overload, pulled up beside a limousine, rich man reading Fortune magazine. He looked unhappy and alone, doing deals by mobile phone. He wouldn't even look my way. Rolled down the window and I had to say, hey, hey, everybody matters.
Thank you for your forgiveness.
I love that. Awesome song, exactly as it was sung. Thank you so much. That was great. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome. Great to be with you this morning. My topic is honoring and celebrating diversity, joy, and grief together. When we hear the word diversity, very often we think of a racial background or sexual orientation or some other a grouping or perception of that word. And of course, in June and July, we're celebrating Pride in June all across the world and July in San Diego. Somebody asked me, so if June is Pride Month, how come the festivities in San Diego are the 15th of July? And because I want to appear wise and all-knowing, I said, well, maybe because everybody else's is in June, and so we want you to go do yours in Long Beach, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, Seattle, and then come to San Diego in July and do ours. So whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So there you go. So speaking of diversity in that regard, but today I wanted to share some ideas with you about diversity in our experiences, in our day-to-day lives, and what we experience and how we can allow ourselves to continue to walk through whatever we're walking through. I love that you're with me today because, again, we're going to talk about things we don't talk about so much in New Thought and religious science, and I love to stir the pot, as it were. So I'm so glad you're with me today. In our teaching, we tend to be positive, that all is well, that everything is in divine order, that everything is as it should be, that when someone makes their transition or passes away, because we don't like to say the word died, even though they did, that they've gone on to their next experience, that they're out of pain. And all of those things are absolutely true. But the fact is, in that experience and through that experience, our hearts might be breaking. Do we allow ourselves to grieve and to feel what we feel? Or do we cover up our feelings with toxic positivity and spiritual bypass? And I'll talk a lot more about those in a little while. There is a Zen saying, "May we exist like a lotus at home in muddy water. Thus we bow to life as it is. Not as we wanted, not as we wished, not as we expected, but bowing to life as it is." You might remember that this month we're talking about self-care, and the last couple of months we've talked about authenticity and integrity in our lives and allowing ourselves to be who we are, to not only tolerate but also even accept and embrace the shadow and that part of us that we don't like to look at. Because that's part of me. That's part of you, whether we like to accept that and like to look at it or not. So are we able to live in authenticity and integrity and work our way through the mud? That's what I'm talking about today. Because life is about, this thing called life is amazing. It's about joy and passion and abundance and wonder and anticipation. And it's also about grief and loss and anger and hurt and disappointment and struggle, because that's what it is. And can we keep walking? And I would suggest that yes, we can. And so we're going to talk about that this morning. Focusing on taking care of ourselves, being authentic with ourselves. Now, I'm not suggesting that we stay stuck in the mud where the lotus is, but, and you've probably heard me talk about this before, but quoting one of my favorite authors, Debbie Ford, what we can't be with won't let us be. Can we be with that grief and that loss and that anger and that whatever it is? And with that joy and that passion and that wonder, can we be with all of that and just allow ourselves to feel what we feel? One of my other favorite authors, Brené Brown, in The Gifts of Imperfection, she writes about perfectionism. Now, I don't know about you, but I like to be put together and adult and mature and respectful and practical and all of those other wonderful things. But in the book she writes, perfectionism is not the same as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. But it's a shield. Perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact, it's the thing that's really preventing us from taking flight. Do we allow ourselves to grieve? Do we allow ourselves to hurt and to be angry? In the case of someone's death, in the case of what we judge as a big transition in our lives, when a job ends, when a relationship changes, especially when something that we're not expecting, but even those that we are, can we allow ourselves to experience that and take care of ourselves enough to feel what we feel so that we can move forward? Do we allow ourselves to, well, now wait a minute, I have to tell you, and I might have said this before, but I would like to say that I am charming and sparkling and all of those things, and all the time. It's so funny, I live about half a block from the Vons up there at Baltimore Drive and Lake Murray Boulevard, and inevitably woke up in the morning, for the love of God, I'm out of milk or eggs or coffee or whatever, and so try and do something with my hair, haven't shaved yet, come down to the Vons, and inevitably, oh, hi, how are you? You ever seen that? You know, just dash to the grocery store just for something really quick, and no doubt you're going to run into somebody, oh, hi, how are you? And you look like, well, anyway, you just got out of bed because you did, yes. Is that okay? Can we allow ourselves to not be charming and sparkling all the time? And instead take care of ourselves and honor where we are and honor how we feel. True self-care requires us to say, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm just not in a good mood today. Do you have those every once in a while? It's just like, you fall out of bed on the wrong side. I mean, even the dog is over across the room because she doesn't want to deal with me. And thankfully it doesn't happen very often, but we get to have those days, and it's okay because it came to pass. Remember, in the Bible, so many of the stories started with, and it came to pass, because it did. Whatever that is, it came to pass, and we'll get through it, but we have to honor ourselves and love ourselves enough to feel whatever that is that we feel. The last 3 years. There's still, we're still recovering, and we're still seeing people we haven't seen in forever, and we're still getting used to doing things that we weren't able to do before, and it's back to normal mostly, but also just remembering and grieving perhaps for those opportunities that we didn't have to say goodbye to somebody that died. My mother died January of last year at Kaiser, and the doctor called me and said, this is pretty much it. And I said, well, can I come and be with her? Can I see her? And he said, well, you can, but we'll put you in a hazmat suit, we'll gown you, we'll glove you, we'll all of that. And I said, I absolutely know that it's her time. She's okay, I'm okay. She knew that I loved her, and we'll just let her do what she does and go on. But there's grief there that we weren't able to be there, and that might have been your experience as well, that we weren't able to be there during those experiences. We missed weddings and graduations and what is this? Quinceañeras. Quinceañeras, yes, the amazing celebration in the Hispanic community. We probably missed those. I'm sure they did. Yes. So all those things we're still carrying with us, and how important it is to recognize that and then move forward into this new day full of possibilities. When you get to be a certain age, there may be things that you're not physically able to do or don't want to do, and that's okay. We see, but and we don't have to spend much time on it, but just in the recognition that, nope, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't do that. Not that maybe I can't, but also I choose not to do that. I'm going to do something else instead. But to me, anytime there's change, especially change that we didn't consciously choose, there's an opportunity to feel that grief and that loss, and just to recognize that and to take care of ourselves. So spiritual bypass and toxic positivity, you might have heard those terms before. And it's about, spiritual bypass is also known as avoidance and holy drag. I love that. But it's those expressions, and I have to tell you, I don't remember where I was, but I was speaking at a center, and I'm talking about this subject, about allowing ourselves to grieve and feel what we feel and honor ourselves for that, and then doing a workshop afterwards. And the song right before my talk was, "Don't Worry, Be Happy." And I'm like, what is this, sarcasm? Yeah. But do we tell ourselves that? But I am worried, but I am grieving, but I am angry. So statements like, it's all good, like good thoughts only, never give up, everything is as it should be, they're in a better place. If you've ever had the experience of the death of a dear one, you know that we, the collective we, are not equipped very often to know what to do and what to say. And my experience was that, and I didn't hear from some people, and I processed that through, and that was okay, but some people, because we don't know what to say, so we want to try to say something to make you feel better. So they're in a better place. All is well. It's all good. And all those things are true. But the fact is, and somebody said a long time ago, I heard, truth doesn't change, but facts change. So all those things are true, but the fact is my heart is broken. The fact is I'm grieving. So what do we say? What do we say in that experience? I'm so sorry. Or I'm here for you. And then be there for them. Or nothing. Can we just a hug, just a handshake, just a pat on the shoulder, just allow our dear ones to be where they are as they allow us to be where we are, so that over time we move forward. But these statements that we try to use in New Thought don't do us any good, I believe. And as you know, part of my ministry is talking about this and allowing us, to the collective us, to feel that grief and feel that loss so that we can move forward. Do you have, so why? So, yeah, okay. So why does it matter? Well, I'll tell you. Do you have a junk drawer at your house? Yes. Or a closet or a cupboard or a storage unit or whatever. But picture the junk drawer. Thankfully, this is not mine. Mine is more narrow, but has just about as much stuff. But so you open it up and the stuff shifts. And you close it and the stuff shifts. And you open it up and the stuff shifts. And so think about our emotions as the junk drawer. Now, there's no editorial comment, not junk, but think about the concept of this, that every time you experience a hurt or a frustration or for the love of God, and I don't know about you, but every time the thought that I'm having in my head starts with, for the love of God, there's something going on here that's making me angry or frustrated. But every time we start to have that, something in the back, that unfelt anger, that unfelt grief, that unfelt loss, moves closer to the top of the pile. And then we close the drawer, and we open the drawer, and we close the drawer. And every time there's an experience, it moves around and it moves closer to the front and closer to the top. And then we go to Costco at noon on Friday before a 3-day weekend, and some poor person is digging through their belongings trying to find their Costco card, parked sideways in the entrance, and you just explode. For the love of God. See, there it is. Didn't you know you needed your Costco card? And so that anger, that loss, that grief comes out in surprising and wonderful ways. Might be road rage. You know, every once in a while we see news reports about road rage. Well, did it really bother you that much that that person pulled out in front of you? Probably not. But what's going on there? What unexpressed and unhealed grief and loss and anger and rage had you not looked at? And so that poor person that was just minding their own business, not paying attention to you, that all of a sudden there's all those emotions come flying in surprising and wonderful ways. Or there's my thing is food. And so what happened to the leftover pizza? What happened to the rest of, I know, right? What happened to the pint of Ben and Jerry's? I was only going to eat half of this, but you know, it doesn't keep. So if you're going to open it, you might as well eat the whole thing, because it's just not the same. But this grief and this loss that we don't allow ourselves to feel just pops up. And or we go to work, or we go to class, or we go someplace and somebody says, "Gee, you don't look like you slept very well last night." Boom! What do you mean? So the point is, because I am that. I'm charming and sparkling. I'm also all those, thank you very much. I'm also those emotions that I don't allow myself to feel, and how important it is to not judge them, but feel them so we can heal them. Or you're in the grocery store minding your own business, and the muzak plays a song, and you just dissolve. And it could be from your beloved who died not too long ago, or your child, or a relationship that changed, or just something that happened that song reminded you of, and you just do that. Now, what I know also about grief is we're not done with it. There is no shelf life. So it's been almost 5 years for me. It's still there. It's different. It's not as often, but it's there. And so when we have that, self-care, self-love allows us to recognize that, to feel that, and to know that this too shall pass. And it might be from something that happened a few years ago. It might be from 40 or 50 years ago. It doesn't matter. If there's that feeling of grief and loss in us, we allow ourselves to recognize it and be comfortable with it so that we can keep going. It all requires forgiveness, but that's a separate talk. But just at some point, we'll talk about forgiveness, but it requires that. So in May and June, we're honoring mothers and fathers. I don't know about you, but I get lots of emails from lots of companies, and anybody that you've ever ordered from since the dawn of human existence, you're probably on their email list, and they're having a special for Mother's Day and Father's Day, and so you get emails for the special holidays. And I watch Hallmark Channel from time to time, and of course, their thing is Mother's Day and Father's Day and selling cards and gifts and all the rest of that. Well, my parents were amazing and beyond, loving and nurturing and welcoming and inclusive, and loved me more than I loved myself. And they were together for, I think, 64 years, and just was an amazing experience. That might not have been yours. So if that wasn't yours, I so invite you, encourage, and push you to recognize those feelings and to be okay, not to get into shame that wasn't your experience, but to recognize if there's any grief or feeling of loss. Also, I'm not buying Mother's Day gifts this year because my mother passed away. I'm not buying Father's Day gifts because my father passed away. So recognize that experience of a little grief and a little loss, and be with it and allow yourself to feel that so that you can move forward. Sometimes we have an experience and we don't feel anything, or we feel relief. If you've had someone in your life who has had an illness for some time, and as many of you know, my husband had colorectal cancer, and so went through the period with the chemo and seeing his physical body deteriorate. And I have to say that when he died, there was some sense of, in the grief, there was also some sense of relief. And if you've had that experience, you know that I didn't want them to go, but I didn't want them to stay in the physical condition that they were in. So again, love ourselves enough to recognize that without shame, without embarrassment, that yes, I'm grieving, but also a part of me is relieved, and that's okay. And that's okay. When this happens, and again, it's someone's death, it's the ending of a job. It's some change in our lives that we didn't expect or consciously choose. As we process our grief, there is also the opportunity to recognize that if we're still here, there's something else to do. There's there's a next chapter for us, and allow ourselves to step into that, to whatever that is. I'm on several groups on Facebook, and one of them, one of the other members of the group posted that life will never be the same. And life will never be the same. No matter what's happened, life will never be the same. Life will be different. Life will be different. And so for us, again, it's the opportunity to look and see, I'm not doing that anymore. I won't be doing that anymore, but I can be doing this instead. And be doing this instead. And again, this is not a magic wand experience. So we don't just wake up one morning, okay, I'm done grieving, away we go. It's a process, not an event. But we treat ourselves with kindness and love and compassion. We so often offer that to somebody else. Can we offer it to ourselves as well? And allow ourselves to move forward. And in this grief, and in this being honest with ourselves and living in integrity, there can also be joy. Grief and joy they really can coexist. There is joy in the remembering. There's joy, and if you have any trouble, at least for me, Facebook is kind enough to bring me my memories back from 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when we went on the cruise across the North Atlantic, when we went to London, when we went to Alaska. So if you're not grieving today, well, that's okay. Let me show you a picture from back in the day and kind of, knock the scab off the wounds. I'm just saying. But so we have the opportunity the joy in the remembering, in the gratitude, in the possibility of what's next. And again, in the relationship, in the job, in the whatever it is, that we're not doing this anymore, so I'm going to do this. But allow ourselves to stay in that possibility. So what do we mean by joy? This is in the book Power, Freedom, and Grace by Deepak Chopra. He writes about the differences between joy and happiness. Most people say, I'm happy because I have family and friends, because I have a great job, because I have money and security, and adding my words, because I am here with you. That always brings me joy. All of these reasons for happiness are tenuous. They come and go like a passing breeze. External causes of happiness never create real joy. Joy is an internal state of consciousness that determines how we perceive and experience the world. The internal source of joy, our connection to our Creator, our source, our inner self, is the cause, while happiness is the effect. So in this joy, we recognize, I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what the next step is for me, but I know that I will know. I will know what I need to know. And this was my affirmation when I've done my tests over time. I will know what I need to know when I need to know it. I don't know what's in the next chapter, or what's 2 chapters, 3 chapters from now, or the end of the book. But I know that I will know what I need to know when I need to know it. So we can stay in can we stay in the sacred I don't know? Sounds like a great title for a Sunday talk. The sacred I don't know. I don't know what's next for me. I don't know what's 2 or 3 chapters from now, but I know that I am always divinely guided, divinely protected, and if I start to get nervous about it, do we ask? Do we allow ourselves to ask? Remember in the New Testament, Jesus said, ask, seek, and knock. I don't know what's next for me. I don't know where I go from here. But the still small voice always, always, always tells us what we need to know. So that's that connection with this loving, nurturing presence. And so that's for us in our relationship with Spirit, is to be willing to ask and to know that we're guided and taught and told where we need to go when the time is right. So because I don't like the word challenge, the opportunity for us is to embrace all of this, not to tolerate it, because to me you tolerate a rock in your shoe. We don't just tolerate it, we don't just accept it, but we embrace it, because life is about change. That's what we do. That's what happens here. And we have this experience. We allow ourselves to feel what we feel, but also feel the joy as well, and move into and allow ourselves to be guided into the next chapter of whatever that is. To, when we're ready, to feel the grief and the loss and forgive what needs to be forgiven and move forward into whatever's next for us. Remember that the writing by the Sufi mystic poet Rumi about the guest house and welcoming all of it, welcoming the goofiness, my word, not his, welcoming the anger and hurt and frustration and bitterness and joy and passion and wonder, and welcoming all of it, because that's what we're here for. That's the richness. You get it's like the sea's lemon truffle. I talk about food too much. And if you've not had one, as soon as you leave here this morning, you need to go to Grossmont and get a sea's lemon truffle, because it's the sweetness of the chocolate. I'm drooling just a little. It's the sweetness of the chocolate with the bitterness of the lemon. If that's not a metaphor for life, it's a religious experience. And I know religious experiences, they are so good. But that's a metaphor for life. It's the sweetness and the joy with the bitterness and the loss. And we get to feel and experience all of it. Because if we just want the chocolate without the lemon, we're missing out. And if we just want the lemon without the chocolate, we pucker just a little and we're missing out. So welcoming and embracing all of it in this joy, in this wonder, knowing that all is well. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a minute. So in the peace and the quiet of this moment, we give great thanks for the opportunity to be together this morning in the recognition that there is only one power, presence, mind, life, and intelligence, and that is God, Spirit, the infinite, the divine, our higher power, whatever we choose to call it. And today, moving forward, we allow ourselves to say yes. Say yes in this consciousness of oneness and of self-care. We allow ourselves to say yes to that emotion, rather than calling it good or bad, just calling it an emotion. We allow ourselves to feel that, to experience that, to heal that when we're ready, and move forward into the next chapter of whatever it is for us, knowing that this thing called life always, always, always loves us, nurtures us, and moves us forward. So for our time together for this beloved spiritual community, we give great thanks. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is.